And welcome into the latest edition of the Unpaid Interns. I'm Austin Render, writing solo today on this Monday, June 29th. Won't be writing solo for long. We have some great guests coming on today from The Athletic. Bob Kravitz will be joining us. He is a veteran sports writer, has been doing this for over 35 years. He's going to have some great stories, some great insight into what it is like to be a writer in this business and kind of how it's changed since he got into it 36 years ago. And then following him will be Mike Miller. He is a managing editor for the Crimson Quarry, and according to his Twitter bio, also a grill master. So we will grill him on that and see how good of a griller he really is, and also talk plenty of sports and his new job with the Crimson Quarry. So, two really fun and exciting guests that we have coming on here later today. But here in this Monday episode, let's kind of get through some of the headlines that the sports world is talking about. And I think there's one that has grabbed everybody's attention. Cam Newton is off to New England. He will be joining the Patriots on a 1 year incentive laden deal. And basically, if it does not work, the Patriots miss the playoffs. If Cam Newton turns out to be a bust, Bill Belichick has worked that contract to where, you know what, we're still going to benefit from your poor play. And that's just exactly what you would expect from Bill Belichick. But Cam Newton will make that New England Patriots team a playoff team and possibly a Super Bowl contender if he plays to his MVP level. Past couple of seasons, he has not done that. He's been injured. He's been a little bit slow in the pocket. And we'll see if he's healthy after this long layoff that he had. Remember, he played just 2 games last year before Kyle Allen took over his position in Carolina. Also coming out yesterday, the Patriots fined $1.1 million and a third round draft pick taken away because of the incident on the sideline at Cincinnati when the television crew for the Patriots were illegally filming the Bengals. And so that is a $1.1 million fine and a 2021 third round draft pick that the Patriots have lost in that shuffle. It's still looking like everything's a go here for the month of July, which is going to be an absolute sports lover's dream. Let's just put it at that. The NBA is coming back toward the end of the month. MLB will be back 23rd and 24th of July. I believe the NBA is the 31st. And that's just going to be enough right there with the MLB and the NBA coming back. Golf is still going strong. Personally, that's something I've been watching a lot of. Dustin Johnson, the winner yesterday of the Travelers Championship. He has now won in 13 straight seasons. It is his 21st win on the PGA Tour. Congrats to him, and congrats to Will Gordon, who got a tied third, which was enough to give the young man out of Vanderbilt a temporary exemption to the PGA Tour. That's the type of stuff that, yeah, he didn't win, but that means more to him than probably a win does to Dustin Johnson, because now Will Gordon has a spot temporarily to try and earn some money and earn some status on the PGA Tour. So good for Will Gordon. Fired to 64 the final round, able to sneak his way into a tie third. Other headlines in the sports world: college football continues to kind of play Plinko. You hear some good news, you hear some bad news. Indiana last week, Tamar and I talked about it. Out of their first 187 staff students on campus for athletics, none of them tested positive, which is a huge sign of the right direction for Indiana. We'll talk about that with our guests later today. Does that mean anything? If everyone else in the college football landscape is having positive tests pop up left and right, Purdue just announced they have their first positive test earlier or later last week. Does Indiana's no positive test mean anything? That's a question we're going to talk to Bob and Mike about today. How does college football move forward if some schools are doing better than others? If some conferences are doing better than others? Will the Big Ten move forward if the Big 12 cannot? That's the type of stuff that's going to be very interesting for this college football season. And of course, college basketball just starting to loom on the outset here. We're at the end of June, so about to start July. You think July, August, September, and then October is usually when you get some of the festivities with basketball. So you're looking at about 4 months away, right around when that second wave of COVID-19 is expected to come across. And so that'll be interesting to watch how the NCAA handles not only bringing football back, but bringing basketball back as well. And so those will be two highly talked about. Also, the NHL. I missed them when I was talking about July. They'll be coming back as well in July. Soccer leagues are back in full force. Liverpool is the Premier League champion, the earliest a champion has ever been decided, with 7 fixtures still left on the schedule. Liverpool, congratulations to them and their fans who have waited 30 years for the Liverpool championship in the Premier League. U.S. Open in golf has been picked up by NBC Sports, and maybe the casual fan doesn't really see a difference in that, but that is a big deal for golf fans. NBC has been covering the U.S. Open for a long time. They dropped it back in 2015, and it was picked up by Fox, and Fox has had it since 2015. They've gotten better and better and better, and it'll be disappointing to not see the guys in Fox hosting that, but it'll be, I mean, NBC is a very experienced crew. They always do the Open Championship, and of course, no Open Championship this year. So NBC would have been majorless. They didn't even get to finish the Players. So the NBC Sports Network will, and that group of guys led by Dan Hicks and Paul Azinger, will get their shot at the U.S. Open. So good news for them. And hopefully they will knock it out of the park as the U.S. Open goes to Winged Foot in September. That's pretty much the headlines for today. As I said, we have Bob Kravitz and Mike Miller joining us momentarily. We have a great group of guests here today. Riding solo, Connor Hines not able to join us today, but we are going to welcome in a little bit early since I'm riding solo and finish the headlines a little early. Let's bring in Mr. Bob Kravitz. He is an award-winning columnist now for The Athletic and has covered sports as a columnist and a feature writer for 36 years. Bob, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Do you have my video, or do I need to push
I
another
don't
button?
have your video yet.
Okay. All right.
There
it
we
is.
go.
All right. Let's move this computer because I am a complete Luddite when it comes to technology. So.
Well, we can see you now. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time here on this Monday. What has the past few months been like for you? I mean, this is supposed to be a very busy sports time. How have you gotten creative and tried to kind of come up with stuff when there is no sports happening?
It's really difficult. I would say that this is the biggest challenge that a lot of us in the business have had in our careers, because like you say, there's really nothing going on. It's going to be kind of cool this weekend. I'm one of the few journalists who's going to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the races this week, and that'll be the first live event I've covered since the opening game of the Big Ten basketball tournament at Bankers Life. So that'll be fun, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I mean, it's like, whoa, live sports. I have access to athletes. What the heck is going on? So it's been tough. We have in our like internal email, Slack, whatever, we have an area called Let's Get Weird, and everybody has put in all these weird, off the beaten path story ideas. And quite honestly, I've stolen a couple of those and written that and written those pieces, and it's been a challenge, man.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a great idea. Let's get weird. Let's talk about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I know you've been vocal. You've written a story out on Twitter about the Indy 500 down the road, still wanting to have fans. Where do you stand on that? What's your opinion if people haven't heard it, and why do you think it may not be a good idea?
Well, they're talking about 50% of capacity. We don't know the exact number of seats that will be available. When the infield is open, they can get 350,000 people in there. My understanding is they're only going to open the grandstands. So I still think you're looking at 6 figures worth of fans, maybe up to 150,000. And I just look around the country and I realize that the numbers in Indiana have remained largely static, but not everybody who goes to the Indianapolis 500 is from Indiana. And You're going to have people coming in from all kinds of hot spots. We don't know what the situation is. It just seems like a logistical nightmare to ensure that everybody's going to be safe when you're in a herd 100 to 150,000 people into, yes, an expansive building, but still, um, you've got to use restrooms. You go to the, to get food, whatever. You going through those tunnels to get to your seat at the speedway. I guarantee you, we're not going to have 6 feet of social distancing. So, if anybody can do it, it's Roger Penske. But boy, I got my doubts. I if I didn't have to go and if I wasn't sitting in a press box, I don't know that I would go.
Well, along that line, obviously college sports are trying to gear back up. The good
Yeah,
news that we've heard is that Indiana University has not had any positive tests yet. But
yeah.
honestly, in the grand scheme of things, what does that do if everyone else is testing positive and everyone else is struggling to get started? Our conference is going to be able to start early? What do you think about the upcoming football season?
I think unfortunately it's going to be a mess. It already is. I mean, certain schools have already stopped. They've shut down their workout schedule, and the problem that I have with it, Austin, is that the kids have no real voice in this. There's no union, there's nobody really, no adults representing them. And that I find problematic. I really feel like they're canaries in a coal mine, just heading down there. And yeah, can you maintain social distancing and proper hygiene and all that? Um, if you're in the weight room or practicing or whatever, yeah, sure. But then they go back to the dorm. You're a college kid. I was a college kid a
Yep.
thousand years ago. There's no social distancing in college. And if you live in a dorm or even an apartment, that when you're 20 years old, you could care less about, you know, hygiene standards. You're going to do what you do. You're going to go to parties. You're going to go to the bar if it's open, if you're of age, of course. And so I think this has a chance to be really dicey. And I don't want to be negative, but I don't want to see people get sick. I mean, I don't think that's such a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't mean to send us down this negative rabbit hole here. Let's kind of move into more of the positive light. You've been doing this for 36 years, I believe, is what it
Let's
says
see.
on the
Like,
website.
well, we're up to 38 now.
Okay, 38
And that
years.
doesn't include college where I did it for 4 years. So
Okay. What do
good
you
God,
think
I'm
has
old.
changed? I might have asked you this in Zach Kiefer's class, but what do you think has changed the most in the industry, even over the last 10, 15 years?
Well, the internet. I mean, the internet changed everything. I mean, it destroyed it basically destroyed newspapers. The internet did. And it changed our priorities from digital from print to digital. I mean, everything you read in the Star, you've already read online somewhere. So, it diminishes the importance of the print product, which I understand. I mean, you got to do that, but it's also created a uh, around the clock, you know, uh, 365-day a year deadline that you're always trying. You, I'll give you an example. Okay, a couple of years ago at Deflategate, I got my information about 11:55 or so at night. Now, in the old days, that was a Sunday night. In the old days, it wouldn't have appeared until the Tuesday paper because I already missed deadline, right, for the Monday
Mhm.
paper. But because of the digital age and because of Twitter and whatnot, I was able to tweet it out and all hell broke loose. But so I got to say, just the digital element of our business has changed everything, and I would say that our business has probably changed more in the last 20 years than just about any other business outside of maybe the music business.
And now you're working with The Athletic. How does
Right.
that job differ maybe from, obviously you worked for some newspapers, for Sports Illustrated, for Indy Star. How does The Athletic differ from some of your past stops?
Less immediacy. When something happens, in the old days, it's like, get it out as quick as possible and as clean and accurate as possible. But what the athletic wants to do, and we're we're taking steps to become more immediate and reactionary. But for the most part, they want us to take our time, even if that means waiting several hours or even a day, and write more in depth. Really tell a story from a lot of different angles. Um, and that's the biggest difference is they don't care if you get it out in an hour. If it takes 12 hours, but it's brilliant, that's what they're shooting for. Now, how often do I do brilliant? Not real damn often.
Well, you got to talk, you got a nice sit down with the outgoing AD at IU, Fred
Mhm.
Glass. Kind of talk about your takeaways. I really enjoyed that interview. What were your takeaways from your talk with the AD?
I thought he was incredibly forthcoming.
Hmm.
I don't know how you as a reader felt, but
Completely
uh,
agree.
yeah, he talked about the challenges that you face at Indiana. They have the lowest amount of money spent per sport in the Big Ten outside of maybe Northwestern. Um, and it's going to be difficult for IU to sustain any level of success if they can't pay coaches and take care of facilities the way they want to. Now, they've thrown in like $250 million into upgrading and building Cook Hall and the baseball and the softball and everything else. But if you want to go out and get a big national coach, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, to keep your strength coach, to keep your offensive coordinator, whoever it might be. So I thought that was interesting, and I found his views on transfers and things like that very honest and open. And so yeah, I thought it came out pretty good, and it was easy for me. All I had to do was transcribe the stupid thing, but I thought Fred was terrific.
Yeah, I've been at IU now for 3 years. I've followed them my whole life. I did not realize some of those kind of smaller financial things that are a big deal kind of behind the scenes. And so I
Right.
thought that was very illuminating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got you on here through Zach Kiefer, and when I emailed him asking for guests, he said Bob Kravitz would be great. Ask him about yelling at Peyton Manning. So I feel like we should get to that. I see that it's already making you laugh, so that's a
Yeah.
good thing. Illuminate us here. Let
All
us
right.
let us in on the yelling at Peyton Manning story.
I had written something. I don't remember what it was. And one day, Peyton has my number. I've got his email, but actually at the time I didn't. But um, I wrote something he really didn't like, and he called me, and we started kind of going after each other. And I don't know what kind of language I can use on this podcast or
You can
this.
you can brush the line a little bit.
Okay, all right. Uh, I basically got mad and said, "What the bleep are you talking about, Peyton? This is complete bleep." And it was funny. My little daughter, she was little at the time. She was walking by, and she knew who Peyton Manning was. And she heard me say it. She goes, like, you're yelling at Peyton Manning. And the funny thing is, it was probably the best conversation we ever had. We really got some stuff hashed out. Not that there was a problem to start with, but in that particular story that I wrote, and I wish I could remember what it was about. Um, we hashed it out, and I told him, I said, look, if you want me to, check in with you on certain things, give me your damn number or give me your email or whatever. And that way I have access. I'm not going to use it all the time, but when I have a question for you, I have to wait till we have access in the locker room and all that kind of stuff. And he gave me his email, and it turned turned into a really productive deal because whenever I had questions, he'd answer them, and he's been great. He's been great ever since. So we never had a bad relationship. Believe me, we had a very good professional relationship, and I like him quite a bit. But yeah, I just, I just felt like I was talking to my brother and saying, "What the hell are you talking about, Peyton?"
So how often does something like that happen where you maybe not as much when you're with the Athletic now, but maybe when you were with the Indy Star covering the Colts, how often does it happen when someone kind of calls you up or shoots you an email and says, "Look, I don't like what you just wrote."
It happens on occasion. I've heard, from Chris Ballard here and there. And here's the thing, and I think it's a good thing for young journalists to understand is that, you know, I tell all the coaches and players when I have the opportunity, if you have a problem with something I wrote, ask the PR guy for my number. I would be more than happy, or email. I'd be happy to hash it out. There are some times when I am flat wrong. It happens. You write back when I was at the Star, you're writing 4 columns a week. That's 34,000 words a week. And sometimes you're just gonna miss the boat. And especially writing a daily column. And so yeah, I've heard from this guy and that guy. The stuff that I don't like is when I hear from a PR guy bitching and moaning about something that I wrote. I'm like, well, get your coach on the phone. I'll talk to him, or get your player on the phone. I'll talk to him. And but it doesn't happen that frequently, but once in a while.
Well, what are some of the craziest interviews you've done? You've been around the block, you've done some great stories. What are some of the interviews or the stories that you've written that kind of stand out to you even to this day?
Well, since you're an IU guy, I'll tell you the first time I met Bob Knight. Since
Okay.
we're both IU guys. Um, so the first time I just got, I think it was my sophomore year, and they put me on basketball. I was like, holy crap, this is great.
Yeah.
So I went down to talk to Coach Knight, and it was me and a guy named Dan Barrero, who's now a radio guy up in Minneapolis, but at the time was working for the Louisville Courier Journal, I believe. And so they told me and Dan to just take a seat in Coach's office, and he'd be out in a minute. He walks out of the shower, starts toweling himself down, plops himself down, buck naked in a big old Naugahyde chair, says, "All right, what the hell do you want?" I'm like, and he clearly was just trying to throw off an 18, 19-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
know nothing. And we actually had a good talk. I almost said, "Put on some freaking clothes, will you?" But I didn't. I just didn't want him to know that he was throwing me off. And we actually had a pretty good relationship for about a month. And then all hell broke loose, and I wrote something he didn't like, and that was that. So
How
I
about that
was
access for a college student, though? We don't get that
well.
today.
It was the first day that I was covering the team, and I was like, I need to get to meet Coach Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the media scrum, I need to just talk to him one on one, or in this case, 2-on-1. And he, like I said, he was just fine. And I wrote something he didn't like, and I was banned from the locker room for the rest of the year, and it was great fun. And it was funny
Wow.
because when I interviewed at Sports Illustrated, I was maybe 25 or 26. They asked me, "How'd you get along with Coach Knight?" And I said, "I didn't really." They said, "Good." They said, "Good." Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of really cool interviews. It was neat going to Congress a couple, maybe a year ago, and talking with Anthony Gonzalez, the former
Mm-hmm.
Colts wide receiver, who's now a congressman from Northern Ohio. And I was literally in chambers and watching how the sausage gets made, and talking with Anthony for hours upon hours about everything. So I've not a lot of them come immediately to mind. That's what happens when you turn 60,
Yeah.
your memory goes. But I've been really fortunate, really, really fortunate.
Well, let's talk about the Colts a little bit. That's a team that you cover pretty closely. I mean, this is a team that's had an off season that's been in Indianapolis standards, eventful.
Yes.
Signing a new quarterback, a good draft, getting DeForest Buckner. What's the biggest move for this team's future that they made this offseason?
Well, it's not for their it's for their near future, and that's Philip Rivers.
Yeah.
And we know Buckner's a stud. And we know he's going to be good for a long period of time. I think he's, I don't know, is he 28, something like that, but or 26. But for the near future, it's all this whole season. I realize they run the ball well. They should be improved on defense. You remember how they fell apart the last four
Yeah.
games last year. I think um, adding Buckner is going to make a big difference. But um, it's all going to come down to Rivers, I believe, and his ability, to get the ball downfield a little bit and rediscover T.Y. Hilton, who hopefully will be playing on two healthy legs
Yeah.
the entire season. So, and it's funny that, before he was signed, a lot of people were like, okay.
Myself included. I
Yeah.
was I was a doubter early.
Yeah. And I still am. I don't know. I mean, he's
Yeah.
38. A lot of quarterbacks, if you watched him at all last year, you'd say this guy's cooked. Now, I've been told that he had some injuries that he did not disclose, during the course of the season, played hurt. But look, if he can be 2018 Philip Rivers, this team has a chance to be pretty good. But
Mhm.
if you ask me now, I think the best they're looking at is around 9-7, maybe 10-6 if things go extraordinarily well.
Well, I'll let you go on this. We've talked about all your experience. What would you give advice wise to somebody, a young aspiring sports writer trying to get into one of the most competitive businesses? What's your advice to someone like that?
Um, Couple things. One is have an alternative.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I wish that the media situation was like it was when I came out in 1983, 82, 83, where newspapers were really burgeoning and there were a lot of options. Now you do have the digital option, so you can um, self-publish and stuff like that, which a lot of people have ridden to great success. Bill
Mhm.
Simmons, folks like that. But I would have an alternative because it is very, very, very difficult. Um, I'd say read as much as humanly possible. And I don't mean sports books, I mean reading the great writers, reading, William Styron and Don DeLillo and people like that. At least if you want to go into the writing side of sports journalism. I think the more well-rounded you are, the better. I would say write again if you're into writing, write every day.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, your mind is a muscle and it's got to be used. And even if it means writing, not a diary, but something like that, or blogs or whatever, just keep that muscle working. Um, and so, and be well rounded, live a life. It can't all be sports. So yeah, I guess those would be the primary things. Get internships while you're in college. I was really fortunate. I worked in Knoxville, Tennessee after my sophomore year, worked at the Boston Globe my junior year, and Cincinnati Enquirer after I graduated, a post-grad internship. And that helped a lot because if you get your foot in the door and you show them you got the chops, you will go far.
Well, that is great advice. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. Always great to talk to you, Bob. Stay safe and healthy. Hopefully, we have some sports coming soon. Good luck
Sounds
this
good.
weekend covering
All
some
right.
live
Thanks.
sports.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, man.
Take care, Bob.
All right. Be well.
That was Bob Kravitz, award-winning columnist for The Athletic. I really appreciate his time. We'll bring in our next guest here. He is a managing editor for the Crimson Quarry, and he is a grill master, according to his Twitter bio. So we're going to test that here today. But Mike, how are you? Can you hear me, Mike?
What's up?
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. We were supposed to have Connor Hines here. You can give him some crap for not showing up to the chat today. It's also Griffin Gonzalez's 21st, so he really wanted to be here, but he didn't think he'd be fit to talk to you on his 21st birthday. So, but I do want to bring you in, and we're really happy to have you. What has the past couple months been like for you? Congratulations on the new job. But like, it's got to be weird. I mean, you got a new job, but you got no sports to cover.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. I started, talking to them about taking over the site after the previous regime decided to step away. I started those conversations in late February, at which point I'm like, just jump on maybe the end of basketball season and just ease my way into what's left of the sports calendar. And obviously I didn't take it over until the middle of March, and we all know what was going on around then. So it's been really weird. One of the things that I thought was really appealing about taking over that blog specifically was really the voice that it carved out for itself under the previous leadership. The IU sports media market is just saturated to begin with, but I feel like they had a really compelling voice, inside that market. It was at times contrarian, at times sort of whimsical, at times really serious. And there was a lot of a lot of room to do whatever they wanted. And I thought that was really appealing. Obviously the problem is that there hasn't been a lot of stuff to opine and reflect on right now. Things have just been so weird and so in flux that it's, I haven't really found the right topic to really dive in on some of the stuff, I'd like to do, but it's been okay. It's been fine. We're getting by. We're coming up with stuff to write about, as most people on that beat are right now. But it's nice to be back. It's nice to be thinking about IU athletics in sort of that critical sense again. I stepped away. I wasn't deeply following things last year, really beyond football. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. We got some really good guys on the staff who are extremely helpful, and Alistair Matricardi and Andy Witchery, two former IU guys. So it's been really fun. I'm glad to be back in this IU space.
Well, we're happy to have you back. It felt weird not having you for a year. What is this job how's it going to differ? I mean, like you said, you've been around this IU beat before, but how's this job going to be different than maybe what you were doing before you left?
Yeah, it's, one thing I told them was, for one, I'd like to maintain, again, the voice that website was able to create over the last few years. And I think that'll be different for me because I'm so used to being a newspaper beat writer, very much a dying breed in the media industry. So I think I'll have a little bit more freedom to write, frankly, my opinions on things and give different takes. But also at the same time, I kind of want to bring in some of that newspaper background into that blog space. Whether we're doing open records requests, which we've done a bunch of already. Whether it's doing some actual original reporting, what have you. I think there's a lot of room there. And honestly, I thought a lot about, the old Deadspin in a sense of without access, discretion, or favor. And, I'd like to honestly bring some of that. I don't want to be reliant on IU athletics access anymore, because I feel like in a sense that might honestly even almost stifle, the ability to really dig in and say things. You're aware of the access, and frankly, the access isn't great at IU to begin with. So it's not something I necessarily want to be reliant on, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm hopeful we're able to do over the coming months and over the coming year. And really, for me personally, I think it'll be nice just to really expand my voice as a writer and try some things, try some kinds of stories, try some different approaches that necessarily would not have necessarily been in my toolbox at a newspaper.
Well, you were boisterous on Twitter about the Big Ten All-Decade team. I'm going to give you the floor here. I'm going to let you vent about what BTN did with their All-Decade team and who you think should have been on there instead of maybe some other people.
Austin, I can't believe they did. I can't believe they published that. It was was it a joke? Was that It really threw me. And my chief concerns were, the last few guys who probably made the team. I would say, immediately Aaron Kraft and Jordan Murphy jump out as guys who good players, fine careers, whatever. They don't belong on an all-decade team, especially not at the expense of guys like Cody Zeller and Nick Stauskas, who were, without question, two of the best players in the Big Ten.
It's hard to believe that the number 4 draft pick is not on the all-decade team.
Cody Zeller was great. I mean, he was a great college. He lived, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, he lived up to expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond, if you just go beyond the fact that his commitment kind of signaled a return to, getting IU back to where it wanted to be, was one of those initial building blocks to really getting things going under Tom Crean. As far as I can tell, I think he followed up the hype tremendously. I think he was an outstanding player in the Big Ten, a great college player. So I don't know how you leave a player of that caliber off. I would even go look at the first team too. That's also what threw me was Evan Turner. And all right, he's the National Player of the Year in 2010. All right, I guess so. But what they've done is they squeezed 11 seasons into an all-decade team. That's insane. That's just ridiculous. Evan Turner played 18 games in this decade. He's most famous for not playing games in this decade. So I feel like that was just kind of absurd to have him on there. So it was frankly a ridiculous list. I could find fault with just about anything, but that's what these lists do. I mean, they're talkers that get you talking, and certainly some questionable selections made by the panel. But honestly, I think as I wrote, there's nothing going on right now.
Yeah.
So at the very least, it gave us a day's worth of a cheap story to write and reflect on and yell at. And
I'm sure that was their goal. Nothing going on. Get people to talk about something, yell at us for some reason. Like I said earlier, it's Griffin's 21st birthday. He wanted to have you say something in honor of him on his 21st birthday. What is your birthday message to Griffin Gonzalez?
Well, first of all, I'm so disappointed I'm not able to share in the birthday festivities with old Griff. I miss Griffin a ton. Griffin is actually, I'm still kind of mad at Griffin. I just realized he had me on a podcast back this past fall. It might have been like August, September, early football season. And he gave me the wrong number to call in. I called this random guy.
Oh, he told me about this.
Yeah, you don't do that to your guests. Like, he gave me the wrong number. I called and the guy picks up and he's like, hello? And I say, Griff, what's up? And he says, what? It's like, Griff, what's up? What's going on, Griff? And the guy's like, what are you talking? Like, he yelled at me. And I'm like, oh God, that's not Griffin. So still kind of mad at Griffin about that one.
I'm going to text him right now, see if he wants to pop in and say hi. But yeah, that he told me that story. That's a rookie mistake there on a podcast.
Absolutely.
On a more serious note, Indiana football feels like they're on a good track right now in terms of no positive cases. But in the grand scheme of things, is that going to matter because there's so many football programs struggling with the positive cases? A couple have shut them down. Does it even matter that Indiana is doing well because everyone else is struggling?
Yeah, and I would even say too, like, it's great that they haven't had any positive cases right now. That's obviously great. But I mean, we still don't know how that's going to change once you actually bring the student population back on campus. I mean, it's great for now, but now, I mean, yes, you're off to a good start, but I mean, that's not going to mean a whole lot a month from now when, things could drastically change. I mean, that's the thing. I think regardless of sport, regardless of level, regardless of whether it's sports or anything else, we just don't have a good hold on this thing. Things are still changing rapidly. The curves are hitting crests and troughs regularly over these last few months. So it's so hard to project even next week, even tomorrow, what it's going to look like. So it's undeniably a great start to not have any positive cases at this point yet. Everything is subject to change. I kind of use that as a, disclaimer in every football story I've written the last couple months, is that it's great. It's nice to be able to think about football. I'd love to watch this Indiana football team because, I mean, they could win 8-9 games. It's a really interesting team. But I also don't want to get too ahead of myself because you just don't know. And to your point, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, yes, it's great that IU has, put a plan in place that to this point seems to be working. But I mean, you look elsewhere around the Big Ten or even beyond the Big Ten, there are so many other schools that are struggling with something that, again, we just don't have a very good hold on to begin with. So it's so hard to predict exactly what things will look like both in sports and elsewhere, college football beyond the next few months.
Well, I'll use that as the disclaimer for the next question then. If football season is to happen, we've already had the disclaimer said by Mike Miller himself. What is this Indiana football team looking like? You said they could be an interesting team. It's one of the more anticipated seasons in decades. It may not happen, but if it does, what is this team looking at?
I think just schedule wise, I was originally looking at it after the Gator Bowl game, and you look at the way it lines up. You go to Madison to start it off, probably a loss, and then from there, I mean, you might be favored in every game up to Halloween against Penn State. And I mean, that game's at home. So, I mean, who knows? And now you take the potential of, you include the potential of not having fans in the stands at a place like Camp Randall. And I mean, who knows? I mean, it's really interesting just the way the cards have changed for Indiana and teams elsewhere. But just looking from a personnel point of view, I mean, I've been following Indiana football since 2012 as in a reporting sense. I mean, obviously there's so many other people who could speak to the deeper history and the woes of Indiana football. But I mean, as far as the last 9 seasons, whatever it's been, I mean, again, this looks to be maybe the most talented group they've been able to put together. And you look at some of the traditional weak spots, like defensive line, like you look at some of the guys, the depth is getting there. I mean, it's still probably not exactly where they want it to be, but you look at some of the guys on that line. I mean, I think James Head could be poised for a true breakout year up front. You add a guy like Jovan Swan, who's a proven player in a Power 5 conference. A lot of intriguing stuff on that defensive side. And obviously, I mean, you have depth at quarterback, and we saw how important that was last year for Indiana. It seems like depth, at least. I mean, you have a guy, at least in Jack Tuttle, who seems to have the upside to step in if needed. I mean, we saw him in fall camp last year. He's got a heck of an arm. I'm sure it's just a lot of the the little stuff that he has to put together. But God willing, Michael Penix stays healthy, because that's going to be a question until it's not. But yeah, I think just everywhere you look, I mean, the receivers are. They got some interesting top guys to look at, but I think depth at receiver is going to be interesting to follow if that can be an asset for them on offense. But really, anywhere you look, I mean, there's a lot of intriguing pieces in the mix, and there's, I think, a lot of good reason to have some hope with this team. Forgetting for a moment that Indiana football traditionally throws up all over it whenever it's handed any ounce of prosperity. It usually looks at prosperity in the face and just starts puking everywhere. But until we see the vomit spewing from Indiana football, I think that it's fair to look at this and get really excited and really think of what could be. And I'll tell you what, I look at that schedule and College game day, Halloween, Bloomington against Penn State, calling it right now.
Well, they have College game day with no fans. That's the question.
I'll go.
The media members are lined up in the back.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, been around the football team since 2012. From what I've observed in my 3 years at IU and 2 years with you on the beat, you seem to be very welcoming to the college students who are on the beats at IU. What's your advice to a college student who's coming in as a freshman, trying to kind of get their name known in the beat and trying to connect with guys like you and Zach Osterman and John Blau? How do you kind of gain the respect of the people that are older than you on the beat?
That's a great question. I think where it starts is probably just, having a level of professionalism about going about the job. I mean, it's sports. Sports should be fun, but there's a lot of work that goes into doing this job correctly, doing it right. It's whether that's asking, good questions, writing interesting stories, looking for angles. I mean, as a student, it can be hard. I mean, I remember what it was like when I was a student in college. I was covering the Orioles system from the minors up to the big leagues. And, whenever I would be around the big league team and be around the Baltimore media, I was always like, I was kind of starstruck. I was like, I don't want to, trip over my own feet and make a fool out of myself or say something stupid or, go out of bounds or, whatever. But I always just decided like, all right, I'm up here. I'm going to just do the job the best way I can do it. Hopefully people notice and just go from there. And I think that, a lot of the kids I've seen come through sports media program at IU, they've all kind of adhered to that. They've all, been really professional. They've asked good questions. They've looked for really good story angles. I've always appreciated when folks would ask me for, my thoughts or if I could edit something. Like I always told kids, like, if you ever want me to edit something or give you some help, I'm more than happy to do it. Because it was just something I enjoyed doing, first of all, and second of all, like I sort of wish I had a little bit of help when I was a college student. But again, I think the reason was always willing to do that too was just the fact that I saw a lot of people who were really trying to really understand the business, understand how to write good stories, where to find good stories, how to ask good questions. And so I would just say start there. Just carry yourself with a level of professionalism. Understand that there's a learning curve to it, but I think there are a lot of people on that beat who are willing to help and willing to share some guidance. I know like guys like Zach Osterman and John Blauer are certainly good resources to have on that beat, and certainly myself too. But I would just say start there. Just look at it. Just treat it as your job and really look at it from a professional standpoint.
Now you weren't a Bloomington guy growing up. You didn't go to IU, but since you've come to Bloomington, what is it about the city that kind of people come to Bloomington and then you just don't leave? It kind of sucks you in. And what's so special about the city?
It's a great question. There was a point in my life where I wasn't sure I'd ever want to leave Bloomington. Again, you're right. I was not an IU guy. I came from Baltimore. I moved to Bloomington sight unseen. I moved into a sublet in Bloomington. Just had never seen the place. I had no idea what to expect when I moved to Bloomington. I moved to Bloomington the day before I was supposed to start work at the Herald Times. Again, had no idea what to expect. But it's the people, it's, the sort of even the town and gown relationship with the city and the university, the way the university is right there in the middle of the city. It all feels so connected. The energy you feel on game days, whether it's basketball or football. I mean, gosh, I used to love just going to tailgates and hanging out with people before going up into the stadium. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Hey, bud.
It's just a great place. I would have friends come visit from back east, and they would all say like this. All right, we get it now. This is a really cool college town. It's like it just is the quintessential college town. It's a great place to live, whether you're in the academic community or whether you're just a townie. It's so many great people, so many great places, a lot of fun restaurants, cool bars. I miss it every day. I really do.
What's your go-to food if you go to Bloomington? If you were to go right now, where's your first stop?
Oh, right now. I mean, we're coming up on lunchtime, so there's only one option. It would be Taste of India. Now, I don't think that there's going to be a Taste of India buffet anytime soon, but if we were in a normal timeline,
normal scenario,
it's Taste of India. I can't tell you how many times I would just pop into Taste of India just on a whim. I'm driving out. I'm leaving IU to go back to the office to write. And I'm thinking, man, I need to eat something real fast. So I just pop into Taste of India.
I should have known this. You brought it up a lot on the beat. So I should have known that was going to be your answer.
Oh, I'm that guy. I'm the guy who was always talking, India. We have a picture of the Taste of India dining room in our dining room. Like that's how much I love it. Like it's not a small picture either. It's a large framed portrait of Taste of India. I love
that. Love to hear that. Okay, I'll leave you on this. In your Twitter bio, it says you're a grill master. Dr. Clavio claims to be a grill master. Who is the real grill master?
It is Dr. Clavio without question.
Okay. So there doesn't need to be a grill off or anything.
No, I wish. I would love to get to that level. I mean, I wish I could be on that level. I mean, I remember when I first moved to Bloomington, I started to get to know Galen through some of his live streams when he would like just stream himself grilling in his backyard. I'm like, this guy's great. But yeah, his tailgates are one of a kind. They're so much fun, great food. He's always trying something new. I've learned a lot just from talking to him about, grilling or cooking, whatever it may be. It's not even a race. It's not even close. It is him by a mile, and I will easily admit that he's the king right now, no doubt.
That's very humble of you, Mike. That shows your true character. You're willing to admit that. And thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for admitting that you're second in the Grill Master Challenge. But thanks so much for, on a more serious note, giving your advice and your expertise. Appreciate your time.
You know what? It's my pleasure. Please pass on my disapproval to Griffin and Connor for joining us today. That kind of Bush League, really ridiculous.
Okay.
Behavior, but
I'll let him know. I think Connor just woke up because he texted me, so I think I'll let him know that you were very disappointed in them.
That is so Cali of him. He's such a Cali. Oh my God.
He's in Bloomington now, though.
Was he really? Oh, he's in Cali life in Bloomington. Oh.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mike. Enjoy the rest of your week, and let's talk soon.
See you, Austin.
See you, Mike. That was Mike Miller, managing editor for the Crimson Quarry. Really great two guests that we had here today. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic, Mike Miller from the Crimson Quarry. Maybe some inside jokes that if you're on the beat at IU, you can laugh at a little bit more with Dr. Clavio grilling and whatnot. And the Griffin Gonzalez. But in all honesty, and a true happy birthday to our co-host, Griffin Gonzalez, turned 21 today. Happy birthday to him. Hope he's doing all right after a fun night last night. But a sincere happy birthday. I know we joke a lot, but happy birthday to Griffin. I hope your day was great, and I know Griffin will be back on at some point this week, and we'll rap him about his 21st birthday. But that'll wrap things up here from the Unpaid Interns. A reminder, all our shows are live on YouTube. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on the IU Sports Media YouTube page. They're also archived there. So if you can't watch us live, you can always go back and watch us after the fact and see our great faces and see our fantastic guests and see Bob Kravitz as he tries to figure out the camera. And he did. So we love that we had Bob on today. So make sure you take a look at our YouTube page, anywhere you want to get podcasts, Breaker, Spotify, Apple. We are there, Unpaid Interns. You can catch all of our previous 17 episodes there, including some great episodes with Tracy Wolfson, with Will Sheehy, the countless others in all different sports. So really appreciate the viewership, the listeners that we have right now. Continue to support us. This is, as we said, we are called Unpaid Interns. We are Unpaid Interns. We love what we do, and we love that you enjoy listening and watching us as well. That'll wrap things up for this Monday edition. We will see you on Wednesday. Tamar Scher is back with me on Wednesday. But for Bob Kravitz and Mike Miller, I'm Austin Render saying so long from Unpaid Interns.